Okay, we're back. I just finished with Bob Streaker. He had some stuff to do in here. I'm going to take up with the second part of the first section on symmetry. Of course, we're talking about 4 basic types of symmetry found in animals. We've discovered or talked about 2 already. We talked about no symmetry whatsoever, which was asymmetry, and round spherical globe symmetry called spherical symmetry. Today I want to continue our discussion on symmetry, and let's talk about radial symmetry. The book says that radial symmetry can be defined as being able to divide an organism in half by any plane passing through its longitudinal axis. When you think about this, you're probably just a little bit confused as to what that means, so let's go ahead and look at some examples of radial symmetry. It's similar body parts branching out in all directions. When I think of this, I think of sea anemones. I think of jellyfish. Okay, so maybe jellyfish might be easier for you to picture because you might be thinking about that movie Finding Nemo. And in that movie Finding Nemo, remember when Marlin was going to swim through the crevice and Dory's like, no, you shouldn't do that. And he's like, it'll be fine. And then they had all those jellyfish, and you were okay with the jellyfish as long as you didn't touch those tentacles that came down. Remember, because the tentacles had the stinging cells. Okay, long story short, Dory gets stung and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, with the jellyfish, you're talking about, you know, an organism that's shaped kind of like an umbrella with this head, and then it's got these tentacles that come down. You can divide that animal in half several different ways by any plane passing through its longitudinal axis, because these animals don't have a head region, they don't have eyes. Things that would have this type of symmetry are your sea anemones, they are your jellyfish, they're your hydra, and even your starfish. That's right. Here's a picture of a sea anemone, a beautiful sea anemone. Here's another type of sea anemone, and I know that's a clownfish inside. I like to tease that that's a sea anemone and Nemo. But you can cut this organism in half by any plane that passes through its longitudinal axis. Here's a common jellyfish. Here is a picture of a hydra. I hope we get to the point this year that I get to see you again and we get to feed the hydra. It's a really fun lab activity for us. Here's another picture of an organism with radial symmetry. It's in fact a starfish. Remember, starfish have a special type of symmetry actually called pentaradial. And you might hear the word penta in the term pentaradial. Penta means 5. So starfish have symmetry in 5s, whether that's 5 arms, 10 arms, 15 arms, so on and so forth. But the 4th type of symmetry, the most complex type of symmetry, is a type of symmetry called bilateral. And you might see in the word bi, the prefix bi on the word bilateral means 2. You can divide this animal in half and have 2 equal halves, but only do it one way and have a left side and a right side. Anything with a head pretty much has this type of bilateral symmetry. We say that organisms that are bilateral exhibit something called cephalization. And you might look at that word cephalization and think to yourself, what a big word. I can't wait to use that word at the dinner table tonight with Mom and Dad. They're going to think I'm really getting my money's worth at Mater Dei using these big words. Well, okay. The thing about science that I've always found interesting is that even with words that maybe you don't know, have never seen before, maybe you have seen them before but you can't remember what they mean, you can break them down to figure out what they mean. And what I love about the word cephalization is the prefix cephalo is actually a root word meaning head. So I was teasing one of my classes the other day that I had a cephaloache. What should I take for a cephaloache? And I got everything from Alka-Seltzer, drink a Coca-Cola, take a nap, whatever. Well, a cephaloache just simply means a headache. So the answer would have been take some aspirin, take some ibuprofen, I don't know. But cephalo means head. Cephalization is defined as the concentration of sensory organs at the anterior end. Sensory organs are organs like that can taste and like, you know, your taste buds, or smell, or hear, or see. These concentration of sensory organs, or like your brain, it's used to think. We have a concentration of sensory organs at our anterior end. A lot of organisms do that you're familiar with, because when I asked you about animals, what your favorite ones were, you were like cat, dog, bear, zebra. These animals are all cephalized. They all have heads. And when you think about it, it's pretty awesome having concentration of sensory organs right here. And I asked one of my classes the other day, I said, could you live without arms? And they said, yes. I said, well, could you live without legs? And they said, yes. And then I said, but could you live without a head? And, you know, obviously not, because this is where it all happens. Then, of course, I was teaching Roman Becker. Of course, some of us are more attractive than others. Hey, Roman, shout out. But, you know, I tease, but being civilized allows the organism to enter an environment and using its senses determine if they want to stay in that environment or not. It allows sensory organs to enter the environment first and provide information for the rest of development, or even if the animal should retreat from that area. If you're a little fish and you're swimming in the ocean and you see a shark, that might tell you, hey, retreat, go under a rock, hide somewhere, swim somewhere else, get out of the way, because that shark's going to chompy, 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 chompy you. So symbolization is pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. I enjoy having a concentration of sensory organs here. It would be weird if like our sense of smell were on our hands and not our face. You know, you could like walk around, do I smell fresh cookies? That would be odd. Well, some organisms, some animals with bilateral symmetry, and I just wrote a few up here: worms, insects, spiders, humans, cats, and dogs. I just wrote a few up here. It's basically anything with a head. So some words I want you to learn for this chapter, and just in life in general. Body locations, body surfaces. You know, if you're in the ocean and you see a dorsal fin pop out of the water, maybe that's indicating that it's a shark. Could be a dolphin. I don't know what it is. But a dorsal fin means a fin located on the back of the animal. This is the animal's dorsal surface, its upper surface. Its belly would be the ventral. So when you go home from school and your dog runs up to you, you know, and puts, you know, falls over and the belly is up and the dog wants you to scratch its belly, you're scratching its ventral surface. I want you to know the word ventral. Maybe you pet your dog on its anterior, pet your dog on its head. Nice lizard. The posterior is the tail, the rump roast of it all. So I do want you to learn these words. I put them on another slide without a picture. Boring. Germ layers. Now, we have briefly hit on germ layers already. We know that not all animals have all three germ layers, but having all three germ layers is like the top, like it's like the coolest, it's like the most complex. There are three possible germ layers which animals can have: ectoderm, endoderm, and between the two, something called mesoderm. Here are the three germ layers: ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. They give rise to every body feature, every tissue, every structure in the animal itself, except for sponges. Now you're going to notice a reoccurring theme as we go through this chapter. We're going to be talking about animals, you know, starting simple and getting more complex. It's always going to be that sponge that's the simplest, no symmetry, no, you know, germ layers here. It's the sponge. You can probably imagine right now that when sponges were first found, discovered, that scientists thought that they were plants, and you can probably see why. They don't move from place to place. They can't, you know, hold a ball, throw a ball. They can't talk. They don't have eyes. They don't even have a mouth. So you're thinking to yourself, well, wow, sponges are pretty simple animals. You got it, Toots. Some animals only have two germ layers. These are going to be like your sea anemones and your stinging-celled animals like your jellyfish. And those two, of course, being ectoderm and endoderm. Another characteristic that animals can have is body cavities. Now, body cavity is defined as a fluid-filled space between the digestive tract and the outer body wall. And not all animals have body cavities. Those that don't have body cavities are termed a coelomate, and you're probably thinking, would that be like a sponge? The answer is yes. Yeah. Well, why do you need a body cavity? What does a body cavity actually do for you? Well, I'm really glad you asked, and it's a question on your homework, and I'll probably place it on the chapter test. One of the biggest jobs your body cavity does for you is movement. Now, we know that nervous tissue and muscle tissue work together for movement, But your body cavity actually provides a structure against which the muscles can contract. We know that muscles work in pairs, and as one of them is contracting, the other of the pair is expanding. And your body cavity acts as a structure against which the muscles can move against, can push against. Another function of the body cavity, it allows the interior of the animal to move somewhat independent of the exterior. So I can stand here, right here facing you, and I can move my arms to the right and to the left, but my body stays facing you. Because of my body cavity, the outside of my body can hula and move somewhat independent of the interior. You're welcome. And the third major function of a body cavity, it acts as a reservoir and transporter for substances within the body. You know, I asked this question last week. I said, if I had a headache, or a cephaloache, as we just discussed earlier, would I want to take my ibuprofen in pill form, or could I take my ibuprofen in like intravenous form through an IV? Well, I don't normally give myself IVs, but which one, my point was, which one would relieve my cephaloache faster? Taking my pills in pill form or taking my ibuprofen in, in an IV form? And obviously the answer is through IV form. It's going to travel much faster through to my central nervous system to block that sensation message. But, you know, they got that right. So good job. Remember, if I'm going really fast, you can stop, you can slow this down, but also this PowerPoint is posted on your Schoology page. Look for Chapter 32 folder, and then under that Chapter 32 folder, there are worksheets posted, as well as this PowerPoint. Animal diversity. Okay, so again, hitting on the animal diversity of it all, what's the common ancestor? What do we find as being, you know, where animals came from? Down here at the bottom, it's something called the ancestral colonial protists. Again, you're talking protists that are heterotrophic, and they were going to be like at the base of the phylogenetic tree, where you have animals with no tissue. Surprise, surprise, the sponge! Oh! And then, of course, you have animals with tissues. So this branches off to animals having radial symmetry versus animals having bilateral symmetry. And then the bilateral symmetry branches off into protostomes versus deuterostomes. If you don't remember the meaning to those words, we're going to go over it actually in a few sections. But pro means first, stome means mouth. These organisms develop their mouth first in their digestive tract and then their anus. And then deuterostomes, dip means two, stome again meaning mouth. These are the ones that develop their mouth second in their digestive system. Anus first, mouth second. This is why we, as chordates, are more closely related to Patrick Star, the starfish, than we are to Mr. Krabs or, I don't know, I guess, remember the sandworm? The nematodes, remember those? So, when you talk about the phylogenetic tree of animals, you can look at things like presence of tissues. Does the animal have a tissue system or not? Now, back on this, of course, only the sponges don't have tissues, but then you do have all of these animals from here over having tissues. So you can look at the presence of tissue. You can look at how many germ layers the animal has. Again, sponges, 0. Stinging-celled animals are going to have 2. They're going to have endoderm and ectoderm with no mesoderm. And then, eventually you're going to get to having all 3. And then you're going to look at what body cavities do these animals have, if any. Again, sponges, acoelomate, meaning no body cavity. Then we're going to talk like roundworms being pseudocoelomate, meaning a fake body cavity not completely contained within mesoderm. And then you're going to have the coelomate animals like your deer, your rabbits, your squirrels, your humans. That's going to be the most complex. You can look at the type of development, which we're going to get into in another section, whether that's going to be schizocele or enterocele, also some really great words to throw around at the dinner table. You might look at the presence of other features such as a backbone. We're going to find out that the word chordate comes from the word chordata, meaning flexible rod, but here's the kicker. Not all chordates have a backbone. That's right, I said it, you heard it. Some chordates retain that flexible rod, and it's not replaced by hardened calcified bone, but we'll get there, don't worry. When you look at the animal kingdom, we know that according to Linnaeus, of course, you had kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. When you look at the animal kingdom, within that kingdom, 10 phylum, or phyla, plural, 10 phyla are invertebrates, meaning animals lacking a backbone, and only one is the chordate. 95 to 97% of animals are invertebrates, where 3 to 5% are your chordates. Who knew? I did. And now you do. The word chordate comes from the word notochord, chordata, notochord, meaning flexible rod along the dorsal part. And again, where's dorsal? That's right, the back. Think of sharks, think of dorsal fins. Do you have a dorsal fin? No. Some animals retain their notochord throughout life, so you can't say that all chordates have that hardened, calcified bone, because some animals do retain that notochord throughout their life. In most animals, that notochord is replaced by, listen carefully, this is a question on the test. The notochord is replaced by a backbone. So, on the test, what is the notochord replaced by in most chordates? A backbone, calcified, hardened bone. And the dorsal nerve cord develops into the brain and the spinal cord. Test question, right here. Right here. Right here. Test question. Just saying, Kirsten Kennedy, right here. Just saying, Elena Conan, right here. I really miss you guys, just saying. Again, here is your phylogenetic tree of animals. Well, so much for section 1, on to section 2. Oh, your homework. Your homework is to complete the 32.1 worksheet called The Nature of Animals, I believe, and get that submitted by tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Send me a picture. You can send it to my cell phone. I gave you the number yesterday, but again, it's area code 618-534-5497. Just take a picture with your cell phone or your device and send it to me on my cell phone, or if it's easier, you can send it to my email at cgraman@materdeinites.org. Again, that was CGRAMANN. If you put 2 M's and only 1 N, I will not get it.